you asked me about pre-COVID and post-COVID. So I call it BC, like before COVID.
Yeah, and AD after Delta.
Yes, exactly. Funny how history repeats itself, and also scary. Um, and so I think it's easiest to talk about what we learned from COVID. So um, when COVID first hit, so we always fund health, education, and financial stability. So we know our dollars are finite. So you're never going to see United Way fund an environmental or arts and culture. Those are extremely important for the health of a local um, a local municipality. But we know that our dollars are finite. So we invest in health, education, and financial stability work. And so we were pretty darn good at that, right? We had processes in place, we had best practices, we had a number of different procedures to make sure that dollars were coming in and going out to over 60 different programs. And then COVID hit, and all of a sudden, the needs of our community were drastically different. Drastically different. Kids didn't need in person tutors. Students needed to make sure that they had the internet. They needed to make sure they had a working computer, laptop, or tablet. They needed to make sure that they had somewhere in their home that was quiet enough to participate in online school. Um, People that used to go to the doctors couldn't go to the doctors, for transportation reasons. We lost almost half of our buses. They just closed them up. Like, we're not riding, we're not doing the bus routes to Ypsilanti. So frontline workers that typically live in 48197 and 48198 all of a sudden lost transportation to get to where they were
Mm,
needed to go to work, because how many of us were so fortunate to be able to work from home, right?
right.
Well, frontline workers, healthcare workers, childcare workers, they don't get to work from home. And then they lost their transportation to even get to their job. So we knew that we had to change everything that we were doing. There was going to be no more 2 or 3 year grant cycles. There was no more, you know, planning as far as looking at 2 or 3 years out to how things were needed, because we had an immediate need. And what we learned is that United Way is very good at raising money. We're very good at distributing money, and we're very good at understanding what the community needs are. So we raised about $1 million right off the bat in about 4 weeks, and we distributed it in about 4 weeks. And so that was extraordinary for us. We used to have 6 month grant cycles. We used to do long due diligence on everything related to a nonprofit that we were going to give money to. We read their board minutes, we looked at their 990s, all kinds of stuff. And when COVID hit, we also noticed a disproportionate a number of people were affected by COVID, and it was our BIPOC communities in the hardest hit marginalized areas of 48197 and 48198. And so we said, first of all, we need to raise money quick. We need to get the money into the hands of the people that needed it the most, and we needed to change how we did things. And so, what we were able to do is connect with local communities, with church groups, with neighborhood associations, and we were able to get PPE into the hands of people that needed it the most. We were able to fund transportation alternatives so people could get to work that were still working or needed to get to work. We were able to completely change some of the ways that we were putting money into education, because we were going to make sure that kids had all of those things that we needed, that they needed, internet. We had a large part of the county that was didn't have internet. They're still
Yeah.
using dial-up. Yeah, how does a kid do his homework if he's supposed to watch two videos, right? And he can't get the videos,
Yep.
or a thousand other things. So not only were we able to raise those dollars and get them distributed, but they really went to neighborhoods that needed it the most. So we were changing how we did things. We became much quicker, much more flexible. We developed new processes. And I think all of those things are really important for students to also think about, right? The old way isn't necessarily the best way. And as long as you're open, listening, flexible, and transparent, the community is going to help you and tell you what they need and how to deliver it. It's no more this hierarchy where we know what's best. We're going to tell you what to do with your money. We're going to put all kinds of restrictions on your money that we give you. And then we're going to require you to do a whole bunch of extra reports to validate why you got the money in the first place. And so a lot of things changed for us. And I think for the better.
So do you think that that's a change that will continue moving forward? Sounds like, you're talking about the old way as a way that might have been overly sort of cumbersome for
Yeah.
community organizations. What what have you learned from that process of of speeding it up and of, of, I guess, loosening maybe the restrictions on funds?
Yeah. So it became, um, we became a much more responsive organization. We became an organization that had a lot more trust in the community because we were putting trust into the community. And how those things might change. We wanted to make sure that dollars were going to BIPOC led organizations. We wanted to make sure that people that were leading local agencies, programs, or initiatives lived in the communities that they were, where their programs or initiatives took place. Um, they knew what they needed. They knew what they needed, not us. And so many times, we learned so much from just listening, from making sure that you're curious, right? One of the best things I love about Optimize and the students that are engaged with Optimize is that they're curious by nature and they are not afraid to ask questions. And I think sometimes the leaders and the best tagline
Mm,
is problematic. And the reason I think it's problematic is because when a student comes in as a freshman, they get to say, I go to U of M, I'm the leaders and the best. And really, becoming a leader is a lifelong journey. And you
yeah.
are never going to be the best because there is always, especially in a community where we're the most educated community in the country, right? That's a tag that Ann Arbor gets. It's your responsibility to make sure that you never stop learning. Lifelong learning is a real thing. And that's some of the things that I just love about the optimized students is they're curious, they're not afraid to ask questions. And when COVID started, I was like that pesky 4-year-old. I kept going, well, why do we do that? Why is that holding us back? Why aren't we meeting that need? And I think it's really important for people to understand. I think Robert Frost said, education is the ability to listen to almost anything without losing your temper or your self confidence.
Mm,
And so if you think about that, so much of the time, people won't ask questions because they don't want to appear ignorant, or
right.
people don't want to, or they get mad, right? We've seen that in society so much in the last 2 years. It's like,
Yep.
I think this. And then the person in response doesn't say, oh, tell me more. That's really interesting. They go, wow, that's wrong.
Right. Yeah. Or labeling of what kind of person you must be to have, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so when COVID happened, I made sure that all of that, all of those defenses, right? All of the uncertainty, all of the what ifs did not stop our forward progress.